Hi and welcome to Academic Compliance Academy. This video is an introduction to what's going to happen at level 2 of this online compliance course. So mainly we're going to talk about lawmaking and the risk-based approach and of course compliance. At level 2 we will raise the bar. It's going to be a bit more difficult. It's going to be a bit more theoretical and also technical. We will look into formulas. We will have to dive into some more academic perspectives, and I will try to elaborate and make it more comprehensible to grasp and to understand the mathematical formulas, like the economy behind this approach. So what is there in more specific terms? Well, first of all, we're going to look at the legal discipline in lawmaking, because lawmaking is essential when we're talking about compliance. I've mentioned it a bunch of times before. Before you can comply to something, you need to understand what that something is. So we're going to look at lawmaking. We're going to look at it from a legal perspective and from an economic perspective, but we're going to start in the legal discipline, and there I will try to answer 3 questions. Why do we regulate? When do we regulate? And how do we regulate? Because all of these questions are relevant when we need to understand compliance, because we need to understand the aim behind the regulation to fully grasp and to set our compliance commitment correctly, set the standard, know what we're doing. So we're going to look at some principles, some legal thoughts in lawmaking. We're going to look at how is it connected to politics, what is going to happen, what is the right timing of regulation, and also in practice, how does this work? When we have EU law implemented at national level, we have the transpositioning, and we need to look into the technical stuff here. So that is going to be the first part. The second part will be around economics of lawmaking. So a lot of you might think that is there economics in lawmaking? Well, yeah, there is. Actually, it is so profound that EU mainly have economic drivers when they do like impact assessments. They do it every time they have to make new regulations. So we're going to look into the economics of this lawmaking machine. We're going to look into formulas, actually elaborating when we should regulate and how we should regulate. So we're going to look at specificity and thereby answer the 3 questions again: why, when, and how. So after this lawmaking process, we're going to look a bit more at risk and economics, because to comprehend compliance fully, we need to understand risk. We need to understand what is risk in economics in general, and what is this risk-based thing. When we base decisions on risk, what does that really mean? Why are we doing it? When should we do it? And how do we do it? And in the how here, it's gonna be theoretical, so I'm gonna bring up some examples because that makes it easier to understand. So after understanding risk, just the general perception of risk, we're gonna go into the legal sphere of risk and look at what everyone wants to learn about, which is risk-based regulation. So we're gonna go in and define risk-based regulation. We're gonna know what is it, when are we using it, and why. Because risk-based regulation is not all regulation. It's a specific type of regulation that only applies in certain circumstances when risks are apparent and when we want to regulate something that is not tangible or easily grasped. So there are some core elements that need to be present before it's effective to use risk-based regulation. And of course, I will try to answer how by giving some examples within money laundering, healthcare. We also have some cyber risk that we can put in. That is going to be the essence of this part. Last but not least, of course, we're going to sum up and do this from a compliance perspective because we want to know what about risk-based compliance. And thereby we have to define what is risk-based compliance. So we're going to take everything that we put together from the lawmaking theories in the legal and economic sense, from risk, from economics and risk-based regulation, and put it together to understand what is risk-based compliance. After that, we can also grasp, and it should come natural to answer the question, why should we use risk-based compliance and when? And last but not least, we're going to go in with some examples on how do we use risk-based compliance, because we can see that there are coming more and more regulation at EU level which are risk-based. So there are some tendency that this is where we're going. Of course, we also have a lot of regular laws that are not based on risk, but we need to see like, okay, so how does this work? And does that have an impact for the future? Should we expect more? So this in full will be the content and the structure of level 2 of this online experiment, this online creative process in a compliance course methodology. So stay tuned, subscribe to this channel, and be ready to talk more about compliance at a theoretical and much deeper technical understanding level. Thank you.